No, we are constantly using, we're very lucky to have MV provide us 2 shuttles. They have 2 unmarked white shuttles. You'll see them running occasionally. When we have a service issue where we've got buses that are out of service, then they provide those vehicles, and they have not been charging us for the use of those vehicles. So we've been pretty lucky. They're being used a lot more now. They do not have next best GPS trackers in them. I'm working on potentially adding those to those vehicles, given that we've been using them so regularly in the last few years.
So we're using those 2 in addition to the 19.
Right. Running them more now just because we've lost those 2. So they're providing the 19. Right now we actually have 17. So they're filling in that gap until we...
So this gets us to 20, that you figure we'll return to 19 quickly.
Exactly, yes.
And if you had your choice, we'd be at 21. And maybe we can think about that if the PBID continues.
Yep.
Okay, so I'm moving
Question,
that.
will the PBID be based on kind of what we've done thus far with regards to expenses and buses and operations?
That's a super good question.
We've spent a lot of time on this, actually. We did develop a 30-year, 15-year to 2030 budget, and in that budget we have a lot of replacements in the first 2 years, just because we've kind of been trickling along with our budget constraints. So yes, those have all been taken into consideration, as well as potential that we will likely need to increase service by about 15%.
Well, so Great Owens supplied some forward-looking projections based roughly on what we're doing now.
Right.
But the city has hired a quote-unquote engineer to review how the system is working and who's using it and what the costs are, and is going to make a recommendation to the city that will be shared with us on what should the funding be and how is it divvied up. And we haven't seen that yet.
When do we expect to see that?
Well, now, right? I mean, it's been, we would have expected it by now. They've had, all we hear from them is it's taking longer.
Yes.
So,
Is that Karen who's?
yeah.
Yeah.
And on the behalf of the board, I've expressed to the city manager and Karen that I think it would be a mistake to present all this to us and the public, because there are going to be other people. We expect that the city will have a continuing obligation to fund that they haven't had in the past, a general benefit contribution, and that they're going to look from contributions for residents, all the stuff we've been hearing about. I just recommended that they not bring that out and expect everyone to make a decision on it in 2 weeks. They should let there be enough public discussion period. So it'll be interesting to see what they recommend once they deliver it.
Right.
But we have heard that they're probably going to more finely grain the way they divide up uses. That right now it's just commercial, industrial, live, work, and residential.
Right.
And there are going to be more, and they don't know how many more, and that could be good or could be bad, because if they have 1 million categories, we don't know how they're going to manage that. They could barely manage.
Right, exactly. They have outstanding debt now for that.
They have trouble doing assessments perfectly now.
Right.
But we'll see all that. They've sort of made an effort to not let anyone preview it. So even though we might think, since we're volunteers on the board, we get early show now. So.
And how does this weigh against anything that we bring to the table in discussion of the PBID? Do they have more authority, more weight?
We're all big voters. The votes are based on the amount of money you contribute. So we're here on the board. A number of the board members are here because you're the top contributors. There are other representatives, not here today,
Right.
that are, like the chamber has a seat that's supposed to represent business in general, and there's a small business member, and there's a residential member whose seat is empty.
Right.
but everyone's going to have a vote based on the amount they're recommended to contribute based on the new study, right? So what we've been contributing in the past have made us the biggest contributors. That could change.
Got it.
I mean, don't know. We all own a lot of property, so, you know. But yeah, they could change that. But the way the vote works is sort of $1, one vote. And it's a protest vote. So they tally only the people that vote.
Right.
So you vote yes or no. If you don't vote, it's as if you don't exist, you know, so.
Right. And another point was that they're basing the assessment structures on land use, and not necessarily factoring in ridership potential. So it's just purely, if you have this type of property, you're going to pay this much money.
It's square footage, right? Okay. So this doesn't, I guess what we're getting at is still to approve or disapprove,
Right.
the bus purchase.
Yes.
I would move to approve. You already moved to approve.
Yeah, so you can second.
Second.
Wonderful.
All in favor? Any opposed? I think everyone said aye.
Thank you. Okay, the next item is adopt resolution 1501 to set the date for the 2015 annual membership meeting. I was hoping to have this approved earlier as the meeting was scheduled. It has to occur per our bylaws in May, and our regularly scheduled meeting is on May 21st. That's the date that I'm targeting for the annual membership meeting. We will not be holding an election of directors. Francis Collins is continuing to fill the seat as the business member, and that does not expire until I think next year. So we'll probably just be going through kind of where we are, providing an update on the status of the renewal of the PBID, and just giving the members that are present just an overview of the Emeryville TMA, how it's organized, how it's run, and the performance efficiencies of our service.
Typically, we haven't had a large contingent
Right.
other than us.
Mhm.
So you need to be prepared to
I-
talk to people, but we don't, I would guess that would be our first chance as a board to see what the city's published.
Mhm.
If they haven't published it by then, I don't know what's going on.
Right.
But it may have been published just soon before that, but we'd have that chance. And then if, to the extent people from the public do come, you'll tell the general story and remind us of the general story.
Right.
For what it's worth, I've heard that it's going to be available on May 11th. I don't know if that's true, but they're having a study session on May 19th about the PBID, and I don't know how they can do that without the engineer's report.
Right.
So,
No, I wouldn't think so either,
yeah,
but
yeah.
I've been surprised
At least 2 days
before.
before this, exactly.
So the study session on the 19th is what you understand?
Yes, and I had been told initially that they weren't sure if they'd have it ready by the 19th, even though the votes are going out on June 5th. And I wrote back and said, I don't see how you can do that. And then they wrote back and said, well, they would have it by the 19th. And then some more people asked about it, and then they said that they would make it available on the 11th. But I heard that a couple of days ago. Nobody knows for sure.
Yeah, that sounds pretty fast, but
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I think one of the realities that we mentioned at the last meeting is the current city manager is leaving the city to go to Oakland at June 30. And she has said it's one of her top priorities to work on this issue, so she's trying to get it done by June 30, but you do need some room for public understanding and debate before a vote. So, okay, so do you need us to
I need to
adopt the resolution?
Exactly.
Does anyone want to move the resolution to have that meeting on May 21?
I so moved.
And I will second. All in favor? Aye.
Thank you. Okay. The last item on our agenda is the review of the design for the proposed bus stop signage. So I've included, there's two versions here. They're very similar. They've got kind of a color reversal thing going on, but there's this version, which is the purple Emeryville round with our routes listed on it, and buses indicating which routes are served by the different stops throughout the city, and they very prominently displayed Next Best Code, which is probably the most important information on our site. People use that to track their vehicle arrivals. The purpose of this, just to remind everybody, is we currently have, and I apologize, I didn't bring it, it's actually in my car, anybody who really wants to see it. We have signage that is in like a metal case and with a plexiglass cover on it. And we're having a high volume of theft of the metal frames. And we keep having to go out there, order new ones, have them replaced. These are going to be similar to like what the AC transit signs look like and a standard transit sign would look like. They're some kind of polyplastic material, very durable, graffiti guard. They meet the regulations in terms of like deflections and reflections as you're driving down the street. And they're standard, kind of bus stop signage. They would be removing the existing signage and replacing them with this. They also manufacture the signage themselves, and that's D&M Traffic Services. Oh, and sorry, the estimated cost for this is about $12,000.
What is it, how many signs is that?
43, I believe, 43 signs.
So are you recommending one or the other of these designs, Ronnie?
Well, if I was going to make a selection, I'd probably go with the purple sign. Purple breeze.
The less white, the better.
Yes.
So these are all the same, just 4 different variations, right?
Oh, did you get more than one? Yes, yes. So one of the, and then also they'll be double-sided. So,
I do like the one that you did.
Yeah, okay.
The purple one.
okay. And wherever possible, they're going to be side mounted on the poles. They have special brackets they have to use. They won't be flush mounted as our current signs are. So they can be seen from both directions.
So just a question, part of what makes the Emeryville around visible is the bright yellow,
Right.
right? And these don't incorporate that, neither design incorporates that. I'm just wondering from a branding consistency, have we explored the bright yellow as the primary identifier?
You know what, I think we did that on the second, well, we didn't do the bright, we did like a softer yellow. We could have them brighten we could have them add more yellow.
I'm fine with the purple if it's for readability purposes,
Right.
it's easier to read a high contrast color.
Exactly.
But it just doesn't correlate with the bus color.
And we could potentially brighten up the yellow in the roadway of the Emery Go Around logo.
The middle.
As well, the middle.
Or
A little broken line.
Exactly,
Yeah.
yes.
And maybe the Emery go round can be in yellow as well.
Okay.
If it maintains the readability.
Right, exactly.
So would one of you like to move that? Move the signs with those changes?
But we'll explore the changes, I don't think we should decide, yeah.
Okay.
I would move if, that with the exploration of the revisions.
You said approved.
Yes.
Second.
So just to make sure I understand, we are approving contingent upon final review of the modifications as one is described.
All in favor? Aye. Okay.
Okay.
Suggestions or requests from board members? No more emergency meetings.
Well, if they're gonna be this long, I don't mind.
Well, thank you.
And at
Yeah.
Bay Street.
Very efficient, exactly. We tried, we really did try.
So our next meeting's been confirmed, May 21.
Yes.
And will that be
That will be
9 a.m.?
At 9 a.m. at Bay Street. We'll have the board meeting and immediately follow the annual membership meeting.
Just to avoid any repeat of last time, the meeting in Bay Street, the location is closer to the theater
Yes.
entrance?
It's on the ground level underneath the theater.
But by the escalators and where you come in from the parking garage?
Yes.
Right. Yeah, just if you come down those escalators, like the theater's behind you, you just make that immediate right and the door is just right there on the right-hand side.
It says, what does it say, Bay Street Community Room or
Yes.
something like that?
Yeah,
Yes.
conference rooms, yeah.
Right near right close to the restrooms?
Right, exactly. There's the management office, the restrooms, and then the conference room.
And just from a question from a tax filing standpoint, part of your urgency was to get the taxes filed?
Yes.
We're still in a good non-penalty zone?
Exactly, May 15th is our deadline, so we'll be finalizing the tax documents. Our accountant will do that, and we will be, like the Fed, having them to you for submission. then we'll send them out. So we'll coordinate with that liaison. That,
Are there any margaritas available
I
at
wish
Main
I
Street
No,
today?
yes, but they
I was gonna offer that as a date for when the show. Margaritas.
All right, board members, thank you for coming. We'll see you
Thank
on
you
the
all.
21st.